Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsessions
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, I'm Jackie Cation. You are about to listen to the Dork Forest. Let's give you the info about it. First of all, you know the websites. dorkforest.com, thedorkforest.com. If you like a determiner, jackiecation.com has everything. All of my podcasts, including videos of my stand-up schedule, merchandise you can purchase if you would like, and a lot more info than you possibly even need. Let's do the credits. Mike Ruekberg sang and produced and composed that song at the beginning of the show. He sang with his wife, Sarah. It's very beautiful. At the end of the program, he sings his version of the Mexican hat dance. That's Mike Ruekberg. Vilmos fixes JackieCation.com. He is the web designer over there. And Patrick Brady fixes the audio. And in this case, there's a video intro. Very exciting. Anyway, those are the websites. If you want to support the show, you're doing it already by listening to it or watching it. And another way is to tell your friends and family, go on iTunes, do a review. Another way is to just give me money. Yeah. You could go use the donate button. You can make it even monthly if you're okay with making things monthly. You do a PayPal monthly. There's a monthly choice on PayPal. The PayPal is a button on the Jackie Cation or the Dork Forest website, and it goes directly to me. Thank you very much. I will use it wisely or foolishly. Your call as well. Now, my email address, jackie@jackiecation.com, is where you can contact me if you have any questions or concerns and about the Dork Forest. And I do have a Venmo account. It's Jackie-Cation, oddly enough. Another way to support the show is on dorkforest.com and jackiecation.com. There's an Amazon link. And the Amazon link just takes you to Amazon. You order like normal, and it supports the show because you came from Jackie Cation or dorkforest.com. Very exciting. Other than that, there is a Bandcamp. You can, if you have listened to all the episodes that are free and you need more content, there are several live episodes that are at thedorkforest.bandcamp.com. And those cost me a couple of bucks, so I charge a couple of bucks. There's also a storytelling album there that you can listen to some stories that I did live. And there are 17 free episodes before the Dork Forest was pre-recorded. So the audio isn't very good, but the guests were super funny and fun and dorky. So if you want to do that, go to thedorkforest.bandcamp.com. Other than that, let's see if there are other things that I should be talking about. Possibly the merch. Yeah, if you want to buy merch. The only other thing I want to talk about is the merch. You can get Dork Forest t-shirts, and you can get stand-up comedy t-shirts. You can get my albums or my DVD over at jackiecation.com/merch. There's pins, there's a challenge coin, there's a bunch of new things happening over there. Anyway, a lot of information. I don't think I've missed anything, but who cares? Let's get into the show. Hi, I'm Jackie Cation. And this is the Dork Forest, and I'm with Mandee Johnson at Mandee Photo. I have looked at your book, and it is gorgeous. It is so gorgeous. Who is that? I have that face thing, which is actually
Andy Peters.
It is Andy Peters. I was like, I know that face, but I have that face thing, which is actually just self-absorption. So I never recognize anyone. It is called Super Serious, and it is so beautiful. It's like I remember you taking these photos and being like, what is it? It's like the fanciest Polaroid in the world, and don't move because it's high resolution. And remember all that? You were there.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, it's a 4x5 camera.
Okay.
And I'd always tell people not to move, at least for their first one, because if they were out of focus, they were out of focus.
That was it. You're like, and we're not doing a lot of these. We aren't. No, that's what I remember you saying.
I think overall through the course of the series, I probably have had to reshoot less than 10, and that's only been for like blinks and stuff.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Some of these photos are, I mean, you have multiple photos of different people. I only found myself once, but I've only looked at it once. It's 300 pages. Is there just the good photo of me and because I love
And
that
it's
photo.
it is that one photo, but it is my favorite photo of you.
Yes, it's the Amelia Earhart. Though I do like the one with the fire hydrant.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Because you sent it to me and I have it, so I use it
Yeah.
sometimes. But the Amelia Earhart, I had just gotten that hat, and I was kind of carrying it around with me a lot, like a toddler, with a
But
stuffed
it's
animal.
really cool hat.
Yeah, it's a real nice hat. I like that hat.
Yeah.
Well played. Mandee Johnson, you guys, you a comedy producer, but also amazing photographer, and you have a book called Super Serious. Where can people get it?
You can buy it on Bookshop if you want to support independent bookstores, or Amazon. It's available worldwide. And if you want a signed copy, you can get it at Book Soup.
Book Soup, a signed copy. That's neat. And then it's called An Oral History of Los Angeles Independent Stand-Up Comedy. And it's just sort of anecdotal, like people with anecdotes. And I haven't found my whatever I said. God knows what it was.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure it is, but they're not. It wasn't right by my photo, and my photo was easier to find.
Yes.
So,
well, because I interviewed like around like a little over 65 comedians, producers, directors, and then there's like a little under 400 images in the book. So
okay.
So like everyone who's in the book wasn't interviewed, so you couldn't like quite do it like that.
Yeah,
and then it's kind of broken up into flagpoles. So it's like, how did people get into comedy? And then like a loose timeline of independent comedy in Los Angeles, kind of chronological. And then it talks a little bit about independent comedy and why that's important, and then the community that surrounds independent comedy, and then why we all do it.
Why we all do it. It's because you just need as many venues as possible. That's why I do it. And that's why I'm happy there's independent comedy.
Yeah.
And I lucked out because I was already an alternative comic, which just meant I couldn't work some stuff on the road. Was what it actually meant financially. And then luckily, alternative comedy was invented. They were like, "Hey, nerd, you're going to be the one." And I was like, "Oh, awesome. I will do whatever show you would like." Anyway, but Mandee Johnson, so Super Serious, An Oral History of the Los Angeles Independent Stand-Up Comedy. It comes out August 18th. That's happening right now. Because and so go to Bookshop if you want to support bookshop.org, and then look it up on that, or it's on Amazon. Your website, of course, is Mandee Johnson, Mandee Johnson, and your handle on all the platforms, Twitter and Instagram, for example, are at Mandee Photo, MandeeFPH. What's with the F? PHOTO, Mandee Photo. Hello. So now we can dork out. Now we can do it's going to be awesome. This is so funny because there's a mini episode. It was a live episode with Todd Glass where he talked about the planning of having dinner parties and such. And I was like, I would like to talk to you about that for an hour, and it's absolutely never worked out. But now I get to talk about it with you and find out, what the hell? What are you doing? Are you doing like a fancy old-timey dinner experience?
I do. Like when I was trying to figure out what to talk to you about, like what the best subject matter was, I just asked some friends and I was like, what am I the nerdiest about? And they were like, I think you should talk about like how you do kind of like group experiences with your friends, which boils down to like hosting like enormous Thanksgivings in my, fairly well-sized 2-bedroom apartment, but still a small apartment. But I'll host 21 people.
No, that's a lot of people in a 2-bedroom
and I'll
apartment.
cook all myself. Everyone's requirement is just to show up, to like organizing huge group trips in like Palm Springs with like 20 people at a house where I do all the menu planning.
How do you stand on potlucks?
I will go to potlucks, but I'm not a huge fan. We used to do Thanksgiving potlucks, and I got annoyed with the dishes people brought.
Yeah, my sister is a huge advocate of no. No, if you come to my house, all of the food's going to be available. If you bring extra food, then you've just brought extra food, and that's lovely. But there's going to be all the things that I think that should be on the table, kind of thing. Is that, okay.
Yeah, similarly. And it's like, if you want to chip in money, great.
Sure.
I'm going to have plenty of wine. I'll have booze. I'll have alcoholic punches. I'll have 3 or 4 different dessert options. Like, you don't got to worry about it. Just show up and have a good time.
Oh, that's lovely. That is, I know that the first party I ever went to in Los Angeles, I didn't get that this was it was a potlucky kind of situation. It was Richard, whatever. It was there were managers, and Rick Messina. Okay, so Rick Messina would have these Sunday football, get stoned, get drunk. And I wasn't getting either of those things, stoned or drunk, but I was invited to one of these events. And so I thought, well, bring flowers. And so I brought flowers to essentially just a dude bro pile of haircuts.
They probably needed flowers.
He could not have looked more confused. He was like, what do I? And I was like, you got a vase or something? I'll put these in a glass. Anything? And I lasted, like I always do at a party, 45 minutes. So you organize
solid.
Yeah, that's
or giant group trips too. So it kind of expands.
That's why you produce comedy, because you like to organize shit.
Yeah, I feel like we started doing these big group trips before we started doing comedy, and maybe it stemmed from enough bad experiences of me and Joel traveling where we're like, we're not doing this shit anymore. Like, this is easier to get organized, to plan ahead of time. And we would go on these big group. It started off in Vegas, like when we were in college, we would do big group trips to Vegas. And then after college, we would do it for a couple years when we were like in our early 20s, and we would just party and like hang out for 3 days. But then you get older and you don't want to go to Vegas every year.
No. So where would you go in? Like, what was one of the early ones that was amazing in Vegas? I mean, there has to be a couple of really good ones.
I mean, the ones in Vegas were fun, but we were just all young and dumb and, just drunk and gambling at 3 a.m. and treating our bodies very badly.
Fair enough.
And lying in a lazy river during the day. But then I think the first one we did outside of Vegas was maybe like Seattle. I think we went to Seattle as a group.
So just friends, just a bunch of friends from when you were in your early 20s, you would organize. And how do you organize other people? Do you just organize, everybody has to get there by themselves, and then
everybody gets there by themselves,
Okay.
And so we would pick like the hotel or like the Airbnb, and then people would kind of organize into like groups and camps or like rooms and whatnot. Or if somebody wanted their own room, totally fine. If somebody wanted to stay somewhere else, also fine.
Right.
And then we would, I remember when we did the Seattle one, because it was our first kind of one outside of Vegas, me and Joel were like, there's like 13 of us, so we need to make dinner reservations. Like,
wow.
We need to make reservations. Yeah. And so we picked some restaurants and we sent activities to people to do during the day. And everybody got kind of not everybody, but a lot of people got all huffy. Like, you're planning blah, 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 blah. Like, we want some loose free nights. And so me and Joel were like, fine, on this night, we won't plan where we're going to go to dinner. And we walked around for like an hour and a half with everyone looking at different restaurants. The waits were like 45 minutes. Nobody could agree. The places were so expensive. When we finally got into a place, we sat down, and then there was like a football game that had happened that day. And they walked over, clearly like so stressed. It was so busy. And she was like, we're out of bread and out of macaroni and cheese. And then just like walked back away. And then after that, nobody ever argued with us.
Right, because that 13 people is too many.
It's a lot of people, like over 5 in a major metropolitan city on like a weekend night is too many people to go to it without a reservation.
Just impromptu, just drop in on some reservation, some restaurant. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and so we would plan activities, and we would like bat around ideas with like the group, and like we'd be like, if you have any thoughts, whatever. And we would kind of have like a loose outline of, okay, we're going to go kayaking on this day, or we'll do this hike on this day.
Okay.
And so that there's like a loose, and it would never be like, oh, everybody has to show up, but it'd be like a loose kind of itinerary. And we did that in Seattle and New Orleans a couple of times.
Have you ever been on one of those travel ones? where like it's old people travel, where they sort of bring in a bus. I did one, and it was great when someone else planned, and then they're like, "Come, don't come. You don't have to do the thing." But if you want to see the right museums instead of just wander around. So what did you do? So you went to New Orleans with like a dozen people?
Yeah, we went to New Orleans once right after like Hurricane Katrina, not right after, but like after Hurricane Katrina, and got evacuated for another hurricane.
Oh, really?
It wasn't that bad, but like we were at our hotel and they were like, "Yeah, you all got to go."
They're like, "We're trying to be supportive."
Yeah, and then because we traveled on Labor Day for ages because it was easy for people to have time off, or like add an extra day. And then the next time we went to New Orleans, there was a huge tropical storm the whole time.
Yeah.
And then we did like house ones for a while where we would go to like Palm Springs. We rent a house for the weekend, and then I would like menu plan the whole thing and like buy a bunch of booze. I'd make like enormous like Gatorade sports style coolers, like coolers,
right?
With like
spigot.
alcoholic, alcoholic punches, and
right. And then you're just like, I'm gonna get my cup and just spigot it up and do it.
Yeah.
What were the like when you're doing a menu? What are you like? You're cooking, or at least the Thanksgiving one, you're cooking all this stuff.
No, I'm cooking most of it for them too. So
what do you do about like dietary restrictions? Do you have any dietary restrictions?
I am a pescatarian. But yeah, you adhere to them. So even at my Thanksgiving, I have 2 people that come that are vegan. I have a couple friends who are vegetarian, and then I'm pescatarian. And so I just make vegan dishes. I make meat dishes. I make dishes that are for everybody. And dishes that are just for some people.
So you'll make a turkey.
Oh yeah. I'll cook meat. I cook meat I think it's really a weird, interesting challenge to cook meat. I don't eat any of it. I don't even taste it. Right. But I think once you cook long enough, you have an idea that you can read a recipe and be like, oh, I know what these flavors taste like.
Right. You can read a recipe and people will tell you. I once for years would go to Maria Bamford's house. This is not a cooking thing because she's cooking more now than she's ever cooked before. But
so many people are.
But she she would order pizzas, like a stack of pizzas for everybody. But she doesn't eat pizza. No, she might have some of the cheese off the top. That's it. She's tiny, right? She's not that hungry. She eats like a hummingbird, and which is 1,000 meals, 3 bites at a time. And so one time she was like, "We're gonna have a pizza night," and I said, "Hey, can I pitch in on the pizzas and not get it from that weird place?" And then, which felt rude. But also someone needed to say.
Honest.
Yes, and one of the next times we were working together, she told a story about how a friend of hers was giving her guff for free pizza. Because she was like, people eat it. I was like, it's free pizza. Of course they eat it.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily like it. And then it was very funny because I don't know if she'd been doing the bit a bunch, but she did the bit. And then I was sitting in the back and I was like, wait, that's me. And and then she must have seen me sit up because she goes, "Yes, it's you, Jackie Cation."
You know what? But for your credit, you offered to pitch in. You weren't like, "Hey, I want you to continue to buy a steak pizza, but can you please buy it from a better place?"
Right? Could you spend slightly more money? I was like, no, I will throw in a $40 or $100 or whatever it's needed for you to have these pizza parties. So would people ever complain? Would people ever say, this actually didn't work? Like you would make a meat thing and you're like, this needs a little
not
bit.
Like super bad. Like Joel will always be pretty honest with me.
That's good.
Joel, for listeners, is my partner,
nice.
Both in business and life. But he's normally pretty, like he'll give me like feedback and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've ever screwed anything up so much that it's not been edible.
Right. So
which is probably a win on so many levels, considering that I haven't eaten meat most of my life.
So if you're a pescatarian, do you have do you have at least 4 or 5 ways of preparing fish? Because I have 2.
You have 2?
Yeah.
What are your 2?
Oh, there's the pan fry of a trout.
Uh-huh.
And then there's sort of a pan fry bake of a salmon. That's
okay.
it.
Those both sound good. Yeah, I'll bake fish. But most of the time I probably use my cast iron and like sear it.
Okay. So
So
yeah, it's just a sear.
similar. Yeah. But I've done some like poaching of
What are the
fish.
herbs? What herbs do you enjoy with various fish, if I might ask, Baby
I've
Johnson?
really been enjoying during quarantine. I've really been enjoying David Chang released like a line of salts that is, I'm so sorry for anyone listening, is out of stock like immediately. But he
Right.
has it's like a 3-pack. One's really good on like pizzas and pasta sauces and that kind of stuff. One's really good on like meats and like and rice dishes and things. And then one's really good for fish. And it's like it's more like herby based stuff in general.
Yeah.
And I like that on like a white fish. On salmon, I just do kind of like salt and pepper and sear.
Right, because
like,
it doesn't need much.
It doesn't really need a lot. And people are always like, what did you put on this? I'm like, salt and pepper and olive oil. It's almost like a steak in that way, you know? It's like you don't want to futz with it too much.
Right, and it's David Chang spice mix that is sold out, but people should look for it in the
But
future.
you should get a notify for it because it is really, they are really good. And then for like tuna, sometimes I'll do like, I'll roll it in like white and black sesame seeds and then sear it.
Oh, that's neat, like a tuna steak kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever mess with a canned fish, a canned meat?
Tuna, I'll have tuna salad. Yeah, I'll make tuna salad sandwiches. Yeah, that's about it.
Do you go with a vinegar or mayonnaise base?
Mayonnaise but with a lot of mustard.
Oh, mustard. Good. Yeah, fair enough.
A lot of Dijon. Yeah.
All right.
And weirdly, I'm a fan of veganese. I don't know.
Oh, okay. No. There's vegan stuff that I will for a year I tried to go macrobiotic, which worked except for the beer, it turns out, which is not macrobiotic because there's a lot of grain. It was before there was gluten-free grain beer.
Oh yeah.
And so I went macrobiotic, and so there was a lot of seaweed dishes and shiitake mushrooms, and and there's blocks of these wonderful mochi, like there'd be like a cinnamon mochi,
dessert, right?
It seems to be, it could be a dessert. There's a mochi ice cream, and then there's a baked mochi that kind of that puffs up, and I've only seen it at the Co-op in Minneapolis. I don't know why. I don't know where the hell they're keeping it, but you put it into squares, and it's just sort of a pressed rice kind of thing, and it puffs up, and they're flavored in different things. One of the very nice ones was a nice cinnamon sugar one, which was a little desserty, but a little savory as well.
Yeah, that's always a good combo. That savory sweet mix of stuff is always really fun.
It can be tricky though. So for Thanksgiving, if you're making dishes for everyone, let's go back to that because that's my fascination.
Yeah.
So you're having 22 people or 21 people over at your 2-bedroom apartment. Are you setting up a big table?
Yeah, so I'll take my dining room table, and then I have 2 smaller folding tables I put out. And then for like an event ages ago, me and my dad made these like wood like tops that we would set on like wine barrels or something, you know?
Yeah.
And I have those under my bed that are almost the exact same length. They're like a half an inch or something short of my main table.
Okay.
So then I'll basically extend it by like 3 of my main table.
Yeah.
And I'll use, my cheat is that I use canvas drops that you would use for like painting.
Yeah.
For like tablecloths. So I do a couple of those on top.
Oh, wow. That's because those are reasonable.
Yeah, tablecloths are expensive.
Yeah. And think how rustic that looks. I bet you it looks beautiful.
Yeah. And then, and with that, I can get a pretty good amount of people around, and then I could always extend it one more if I needed to.
Okay.
And you're moving like a good chunk of our living room furniture is like rearranged into like different spots for people to sit in. But
right. Just push everything to the side or
like
move it into
like
another
chair. Yeah, there's like a chair and a coffee table that has to like move for all that to happen. And then I use the chairs for my patio and stuff. And then sometimes I have borrowed chairs from the Virgil.
Oh, fair enough.
to
Yes.
fill in. I'll be like, you guys are make clothes anyway. Do you mind if I take these? I'll bring them back the Monday after
they're
Thanksgiving.
folding chairs. Of course you
They're
can.
folding
Yeah.
chairs,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have collected easily 20 or 30 chairs. I could have comedy in my backyard if I wanted to with the number of chairs that we have.
Wow,
Because
stop bragging, Jackie.
well, our neighbors keep dying and they keep giving us their yeah. We moved into a very old neighborhood, and every time one of the neighbors dies, we get backyard furniture and extra folding chairs.
Well, that's
So,
very sweet of them. They're like, you know what they need? They need backyard furniture.
they are, look at that nice couple. Anyway, so weirdly enough, two different neighbors had the same brand of metal
Ooh, metal
yard
folding
stuff.
chairs.
Well, it was a swing and another kind of half swing, and then a metal round table, a little sort of like a two-top, with these two metal chairs that folded, metal folding chairs that were kind of
Oh.
exciting, and then sort of a setup where it was like an end table in between two metal chairs.
Mhm.
That was weird. I was like, well, who's just both facing forward? It would be good in a circle, right?
Yeah.
But-
I think it's probably meant to be part of like, we have like
Part
a
of a
couch or
set.
something.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is much better if you're just
Or
like,
you're sitting and you're watching like the sunset with somebody.
oh yeah. We can't see the sunset. We got a lot of trees. We can see the helicopters. Anyway, yeah. It's a heyday for helicopter flyers right
It
now.
is. We have
They're-
a lot over here now too.
Yeah. They're just, I don't know if they're learning, what are they training us for? I'm not happy about it. But
I think they're just showing off their helicopters.
yeah, they are. They're just like, oh, is this what you'd like to defund? Yes.
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
don't you throw
yeah.
that at a school? There's a
Yeah,
gajillion dollars that you could throw at a lunch.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
I mean, I'm happy for you. I know it's lovely to fly helicopters. It's good times. Anyway, so what do you? So you got? Do you make a big fish and you make a turkey?
So I'll make a turkey. If we have enough people, I'll make a turkey. If for some reason we only have like 10 people and 4 of them are meat eaters,
Yeah.
I'll make a chicken.
Oh, nice.
Because then it's like
That's
so
plenty.
much turkey. Yeah. So I'll make a turkey if there's enough of us. Always have to have, there's a handful of things that Joel has to have for Thanksgiving. He
Okay.
doesn't care if it's chicken or turkey, but he has to have mashed potatoes.
Okay.
Has to have pumpkin pie. So I'll
He's
make
not-
mashed potatoes. Yeah, it's fairly
He's not
standard.
wrong.
Yeah.
What do you do to a mashed potato? Do you do a vegan version or a
just-
vegetarian version?
They're vegetarian,
Yeah.
but they're not vegan. I don't do a vegan version of that. For vegans, I do something that I call like brick tofu. It's not a real thing. It's just something I made up where I take the whole thing of tofu before you cut it up and like drain it really well and then soak it for like several days or marinate it. That's the proper word.
Yes.
Not soak. And like a
You
combo of
brine
like
it.
of like soy sauce, garlic, and ginger, and then I like sear it on all sides and then I cut it.
Nice.
And it looks very like pretty that way, and it's really flavorful. And then I
And
make
3 days of marinade. 3 days of marinade should make, because tofu, of course, just all it does is take the is take the flavor. So a ginger, soy, what else?
garlic.
Garlic. Oh, yeah. There's nothing wrong. I mean, essentially, it's a vehicle for ginger, soy, and garlic.
Garlic, yeah, basically. Yeah.
That's lovely.
And I'll cook that in coconut oil for them. And then I make a really
nice.
good like tomato tart,
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
like galette, tomato galette.
Okay.
And I'll do that with like vegan butter and vegan cheese.
Right.
And I did that for the first time this last Thanksgiving. And my friend who's just lactose intolerant who tried it, and my 2 vegan friends were like, "Are you sure that this is vegan?" And I was like, positive. Vegan.
Emily Heller introduced me to a vegan restaurant over by the Improv in Hollywood
Uh-huh.
that is ridiculous. It literally, everything tastes like meat. It tastes like butter. It tastes like cheese. It has,
Oh, it's Crossroads, right?
that's it. Crossroads in Hollywood on Melrose. And it's incredibly well done. So that is flattery indeed, where you're like, are you tricking me? Because someone I know would do that. They were people who are just they're just a finger, man. They're just a finger trying to push a button. And I had a buddy who was a finger, and he would like put like things in it that you're like, no, they actually don't want that. They don't want any butter or weird chicken broth or, because I make my own chicken stock. I just made a giant pile of chicken stock because I bake a lot of chickens. So that means there's a lot of backs and necks and parts that I can put in the freezer. And then I use a lot of onions and carrots and other things for other things. So those are in the freezer. And then one day, a beautiful day comes together where I make a giant pot of stock. All right,
I've never gotten into stock, but that is probably something that I think I could probably easily do, but I've just never, for some reason, I feel like I read something once that was like, oh, if you do this one thing, then you can make stock bad, or it can I don't know. And I was like, never mind, that sounds complicated.
Right. Well, we have all the time in the world right now to be making weird things. So if you figure out a way to make vegetable stock that's really incredibly
I have a recipe I could send you probably that I haven't used, but I've done a lot of cooking this past 6 months from Jeremy Fox's book on vegetables.
Oh, really?
It's a really great book. I mean, Jeremy is a fantastic and wonderful chef, and he's a great human in general. But his book is really, like, on his, just to give you like an idea of his thoughtfulness and stuff, on his Instagram this past week, he was talking about how they were taking the tomato leaves and drying them out and then like grinding it into like a powder that he said resembled the taste of like matcha.
Oh, really?
So he's like, so all of his stuff is like
genuinely a food. Yeah.
Yeah. And he cooks meat, like at his restaurant, Brady's, it's like predominantly meat and stuff, or Brady G's. It's predominantly meat and stuff, but in his book on vegetables, it's this like very thoughtful but extremely like complex way to get like these deep flavor profiles on vegetable stuff. And I'm pretty sure he has a stock that that would probably be great for vegetables. I would trust his vegetable stock recipe over anyone. So we
for about a month there are vegetables that we have too many of because I have a vegetable garden, and so right now it's eggplant, zucchini, yellow squash, tomatoes, and cucumbers, and okra. Our neighbors have okra, and so 3 weeks in a row, I made a vegetarian okra gumbo last week because I didn't have any beef stew handy. The week before, I made a beef stew with okra and tomatoes, and that my grandmother used to make when I was a kid, and now. I don't know what I'm going to do with it this week. Oh, no, I have lamb. Anyway, so, I'm going to make a lamb and okra stew.
Nice.
Yeah. So what are the side dishes that you like? I mean, if you have people, I wanted to ask place settings too, because I love the idea of the big canvas. Do you have matching plates for 22 people?
I have. All my plates are, I think when I was like in my early 20s, I decided that I probably wasn't ever going to have fully matching plates, but I could at least I had like really crazy, completely non-matching plates when I was in college because you're just like accruing them from wherever. Right. And like people move out and you're just like, oh, I'll take those 8 plates or whatever. Yeah. And so at some point, I think we just got like the version at like Crate and Barrel or something of like the fairly simple like white plate. And I was like, yeah. Just easy. So I have a bunch of those, and then I have some extras from like shoots and stuff that are also white plates that I've kept over the years.
Yeah.
And then I have mostly enough silverware. I think one year I had to go buy like an extra set of 4 like place settings for people. Yeah. So after that, I think I pretty much have enough for like 2022. And then for like napkins, I've used like the white dish towels with the blue stripe. Nice. I've used, I have a handful of like other like nice dishcloths that I don't think are actually very good at like being a dishcloth, but are great at being a napkin.
You guys, don't let it hurt your feelings. You're not good at being a dishcloth. You're amazing at being.
You're not super absorbent very quickly, but you're great at wiping things.
Yes.
So I have those. So I just kind of will do a mix and match. I think that like, when you're kind of assembling for a very large group, you can get, and I mean, trust me, I have fallen down like giant holes of internet research of like cool wine glasses to get and stuff. But there is a storage capacity in my apartment, and there's also a budget capacity in my life.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So yeah, so like I did things like bought like, like simple clear glasses that are smaller that I'll use as everyone's wine glass,
Right.
or like clear jars for a while before I did that, as mason jars are always great.
Right. They're always
cups.
rustic.
They're always great cups. Yeah.
Yep.
And then over the years, I've like slowly accrued enough like platters and stuff for things. So.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
they're all like, they all range from like things I found at thrift stores to gifts to big ones to small ones, and everything kind of like in between.
Yeah,
So.
my mother-in-law has been collecting for decades upon decades Fiesta ware.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, but none of it, like, it's not all the same color, but it's all those different New Mexico colors, whatever that's called. Southwest, whatever.
Yes.
So,
yeah, probably.
Yeah, and so it's okay when there's lots and lots of people, because then it's a yellow and a red and a green and a blue, and it's just it brightens up the table quite nicely. And then she has like for a while she was going through a real Cocapelli stage, and so there's placemats and there's napkins, and so my husband he loves. Andy loves, he's an art guy, so he likes it. He likes things to match, but also a splash of something else. And so when we got married, we registered for these plates that are too big. We can't use them. I'm constantly trying to deal with portion control. I can't be given my own platter of food, because I will clean plate club over here. And but we were at a Walmart somewhere, and they had these sort of the perfect size that I'm like, this is the size of dinner that I should be eating. But they're clear blue, just sort of, a little bit smaller than the correct size of dinner plates. And so he was like, we could use these as chargers. And
you could. I haven't ever. I have looked at it. I have, like I said, I have definitely fallen down like large and deep decor holes for Thanksgiving specifically.
Decor. Yeah.
Because it's like you do want, like, you're having all these people over, you're spending hours cooking, you do want it to look really pretty,
Yeah.
But I've never done chargers. I've just never been able to like financially justify the plate that then you don't use outside of the fancy dinner. And I can just see Joel going like, well, what the fuck do you do with this? And me trying to be like, well, it's like just for like decor and like to make it look cool. And he's like, no, what are you doing?
We don't need 20 of these, because where are we putting them under the
exactly. It's like, also, where am I storing them? But I've tried like different versions of like candles, and I learned that like tapered candles like don't work there's like too many drafts.
Oh, right.
The wax just goes like, it's just too hard to like, control it.
You got to go with those more barrel ones.
Yeah, so I have like a bunch of old mason jars, and
nice.
I just throw them all over the table, and like little glass things.
Oh, those Votus.
Votus, yeah. I never heard you say that.
Yeah.
But so I just use different sizes and just scatter them all around. I'm lots of similarities, but also nothing too precious. I wish when I was in my 20s, I would have known that I would have liked to have vintage plates and had spent time at thrift stores when I had time and was at them to buy and collect vintage plates, because that's what I would really love to have.
Yeah.
Now they're so popular, they're expensive.
I know. What I have my grandmother's old, every week the grocery store would give her a free plate. And so they're the A&P. So I've got like a pile of these blue plates, and I believe my brother has a pile of, like, we all split them up, and I think I have 6, and he's got 6, and I don't know.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So speaking of my siblings, my sister loves to do, because I see that, like, so when you organize sort of a destination trip for you and all your friends, what do you look for? Do you look for like one of these like, it has to be, if there's 10, 12 people, some people are going to want their own rooms. You're going to want a 6-bedroom or more kind of place,
House,
right?
yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes it depends. Lots of times as we've gotten older, you get lucky that there's couples. So that's
right.
one room, you know? So that makes it easy. And then sometimes there'll be like single people, but there'll be like a bunk bedroom or like a 2 twin bedroom.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Something that I learned along the way of all of this is that almost any 2 girls that I know will share a bed.
Yeah.
But 2 guys predominantly will not.
For some reason will not.
That's more rare. I do have guy friends who will, but it is definitely more rare.
Yeah.
And so when we get to we'll kind of have an idea of everyone's budget, give or take, you know, and then so we'll start looking for houses. Like we just did another big group one in New Orleans with a bunch of people. And then you'll just start asking, you'll be like, hey, we're looking at this house, everyone. Like, this is everyone who's coming. This is how we're thinking we'll divide the rooms. Like, let me know if you have thoughts, if you definitely don't want to share a bed, like if you would like to get your own place nearby, like whatever. We have one friend who travels, or he used to travel with us a lot, who always just got his own place, and that was totally fine. He was just like, he's like, I'll be around for everything else, but he's like, I just like to have my own thing.
Right. That's been me for decades. Just because of stand-up comedy, I need my own room, and I won't even stay with most of my siblings anymore. So I'm just like, I'll just push a Hampton in.
Totally fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally fair.
If there's so much travel. Sometimes if you travel all the time for work, you have to have sort of that accidental tourist kind of thing where you're like, I need there to be the 3 things that always exist. And otherwise I get grumpy. I get like a toddler. I get a little temperamental. Yeah. But sometimes do you look for a pool? Or
sometimes if it's like that kind of house, like if we're going down to like Palm Springs or Joshua Tree or something with a big group, it has to have a pool. Like that's the whole point. You're going is like to like predominantly like lay in a pool and do nothing, you know?
Right. And the ocean is nowhere near Joshua Tree.
Nowhere near Joshua Tree, yeah. Mm-hmm. But other times, no. It kind of depends on like the trip in general. Like when we've done smaller, like I think it was like 6 of us in Iceland together, wow. And then like 5 of us in Barcelona together, so smaller comparatively, but you know, and then the one in Iceland, I think we moved to like 2 or 3 different houses, I can't remember quite. So we would spend like a couple nights in Reykjavik, and then we spent like a handful of nights like halfway out between the destinations we wanted to go to or whatnot, you know. Right. And then in Barcelona we were like stayed in a part of the city that was like just outside like the main hub or whatever. Yeah. And that place was actually maybe my favorite Airbnb. It was like pretty big, huge 3-bedroom. So,
oh wow. And there were 6 of you, and you just kind of.
There were 5 of us in Barcelona. So our one single friend had her own room, and then 2 couples.
Oh, nice.
And then his brother and his wife. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think my sister likes to do that thing where I always think, do you always go to an Airbnb that doesn't have anyone? Like, I don't want the people there.
No, like, I only do with the people there if I'm maybe traveling by myself for like a night, and I just need like a room, and I need it to be like under $100. Right.
But because if it's going to be a weekend where you're just like, no, we'll clean up the place, but I don't need a witness to me moving their shit around. Yeah.
No, it's too stressful. Yeah. Predominantly we'll stay without people, or sometimes me and Joel will stay if it's like an additional dwelling unit that they rent out as like an Airbnb. So like your own entrance and stuff. Yeah. And that seems fine but only then still for like a night or 2, not like a week-long trip or something. I'm not trying to make friends on Airbnb.
Right.
With hosts.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the people who do their Airbnb because they're looking for companionship is weird, I think. And, you know, and I can make my own breakfast. I don't enjoy a bed and breakfast at all. Have you been to many bed and breakfasts?
You know, I hadn't ever been to any. And then when me and Joel, a couple years ago, we spent a lot of time in Scotland.
Okay.
And,
wow.
Like a 10 days or something. I don't know. That's a lot of time for me.
Good.
We like Scotland a lot. And a lot of the places, even if you booked it through Airbnb sometimes, ended up being a bed and breakfast, or sometimes we just booked a bed and breakfast because that's what a lot of their smaller things are in the country.
Okay.
And I thought I would really not like it, but there's one that I loved. The food was so good and the people were so nice and chill. I kept being like, let's come back here for she kept being like, I want people to book during a Christmas so I can make a whole Christmas feast. And I was like, let's come at Christmas. We'll show up with a half a box of wine and some scotch and we'll watch the snowfall and she'll cook us food.
Oh, you should totally do. I mean, that sounds like something to save up for sure.
Yeah. And I was like, well, maybe it'll be the first Christmas thing we do post-COVID.
Post-quarantine and everything.
And she was, it was it was 4 or 5 rooms max,
Yeah.
And then another place we stayed at, out on one of the islands in Scotland, it was so nice that they would pack us lunches to go. So we went on a hike one day and they were like, oh, do you want a lunch to go? And it was €7 or £7. It was really affordable. It was $7 US dollars.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, actually that'd be swell if we didn't have to worry about that.
Figure out a place to, And
if
you did,
thought it would be weird, but it was lovely.
Right. I have stayed in mostly terrible ones. Here's what I don't like about an Airbnb: carrying my luggage up the stairs. I'm like, why did I stay on the ground floor? Or I know that you're 80 and I'm not. You can frickin' pull this up. And is it okay? So, but the one that I did like was outside of Yosemite. There was a bed and breakfast, because there were only bed and breakfasts that were available for some reason.
Sure.
And they had a weird CD that you could just borrow or rent that I wish I had purchased. And what it was it was a history of Yosemite along with the drive that would point out different trees on the drive from their bed and breakfast to the start of the park.
And they just did it themselves?
Kind of, I think so. And it was awesome. They were like, look to the left. Oh, that's old man, Johnson has his park there. By the way, I'm talking to Mandee Johnson. That's why Johnson came to mind. And, so that was one. There was a creepy one I stayed in Birmingham, Alabama with Lori Kilmartin, where all the different rooms had carousel horses and people. No. And it was just, there were statues. It was like statues. It was creepy. It wasn't fun. And it had a bad vibe.
I feel like in America, a lot of our B&Bs are weird, leftover, heartland style-ish places. I think that there could be a market, and I always joked with Joel, I was like, if entertainment, if comedy, if photography, if we fail at all of this, let's just figure out a way to open up a really cool mid-century modern B&B, and I'll just cook for everybody, Oh, and awesome. I was like, that'll be my long-term backup plan or something, which is also an entire different career shift, but but I was like, there's a way to do a cool B&Bs in America where people don't feel creeped out, or there's not awkward buffet forced conversations where it's just chill.
Right, chill would be nice. A little too chill was a B&B we stayed in Iceland. At the north of the country, we went to a herring museum up there that we found on TripAdvisor. And we didn't plan it. We had, there was sort of a half-assed plan to go to Reykjavik and then drive around Iceland and look at volcanoes and museums and stuff. And so that's what we did for 10 days. And one of the Airbnbs also did not. It had my least favorite, no elevator. And then the food was in some sort of it was like a kitchenette that you'd find in an office building. And it was just, it felt,
it's not acceptable.
Felt Icelandic is what it felt like. It felt like, it felt like Northern Icelandic. No, we're making do. You will be making do. And we're like, okay, yeah, no, of course. And it was fine. But my sister, for example, is coming to Los Angeles for January and February with her kids because there's not going to be any school. And so her and her partner can work from home and have been forever. So they live in Minnesota, and January and February.
Sure, it's cold. It's
good
cold.
time to get out.
Yeah.
And her mother-in-law also, and her mother-in-law and her partner's stepfather are like, well, we could all rent a big house with a pool. And her mother-in-law said, I can't stay in the valley. And my sister's like, well, we'll be staying in the valley because we don't have 20 grand a month to rent
Yeah.
a place in Culver City with a pool. We need a pool. We're willing to go to the ocean, but we need a pool for the kids. And the valley also has air conditioning everywhere. So yeah.
It is a thing with the West Side that like we don't have AC.
Yeah.
You know, and so we have
it's 10 degrees cooler.
It is 10 degrees cooler, but we also have like blackout curtains in all of our windows to keep the sun out, and then a really intense fan system.
Yes, exactly, right? Because it's 10 degrees from 95 degrees is still 85 degrees.
It's still really hot. And if it like this has actually been over here quite, I would say maybe the coldest summer we've had on the West Side, like where the nights are like I was laying on the couch. All of our windows and stuff were open last night. We didn't have any fans going.
Right.
But I was laying on the couch with a blanket because I was like, oh, it's kind of like cold.
Kind of chilly.
Which is nice. It's nice, but it's weird for August, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the heat is coming. I'm not a person that's like, oh, we got out of a hot summer. I'm just
right.
But and when it's like 85 at night on the West Side and it doesn't ever drop, we don't get what is our AC, which is like then the cold night and the cold like
the nice breeze,
the ocean,
to
cool down everything.
Yeah.
And so then you just immediately start. So you never get reprieve if you don't have AC over here.
Right.
So it's smart. AC, pool with kids, all very smart.
Oh yeah. So she'll do that. She's a big fan. She kind of like she likes to have people over and do a lot of cooking and stuff like that. Is there? So let's talk about these punches. Let's talk about it's
they're fun.
Is it a fun thing to make a nice punch?
I like to make them. I don't really drink them as much, but I do like to make them. I basically a long time ago took a recipe for a Leanne Palmer, which is like an Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
But, with like green tea and lemons.
Who's Leanne?
I don't know. It was like a website. It was like a website for like a recipe for 4, and then I just figured out over time how to extrapolate that into more.
Okay.
But I will take my time making them. So I'll start like if we're all going to show up to the house on Thursday, I'll probably start making the punch on like Monday so that it sits for days. So like I'll make like the base of it and put in like the gin and the limoncello and the green tea and the honey and all that stuff. But then I'll put in like fresh lemon slices for a couple of days to make it really nice and tart. But then by the time you get there, they're all dangerous because they don't taste like there's any booze in them at all.
Because they've just been sort of like a soup or a marinade. Yeah. So it's just so now it just tastes like, what is lemon jello? Limoncello?
Limoncello. It's like a
is it limoncello?
It's from Italy. It's an alcoholic, like very lemon driven spirit.
Okay.
And I'm sure somebody will correct me.
Is it thicker? Is it like a liqueur?
It's closer. It's in the family of liqueurs. It's like a little bit thicker, I think, if memory serves right, but maybe not necessarily. I haven't made it in ages, but it's very like, I don't think, and I'm sure people do, but I wouldn't drink limoncello maybe on their own, but I think some people drink it like chilled with ice too.
Okay. But, it's probably maybe a dessert aperitif or whatever, a dessert.
Yeah, it probably falls in the line of aperitif, like liqueurish thing. But it just kind of helps the flavor profile of like the lemons and like the lemonade kind of like flavoring of this punch.
So if you're making like 5 gallons or 3 gallons of this thing, and so you're putting in like a quart of gin, and then essentially you're hiding that gin with all of these flavors, and some of those flavors are also liquors and alcohol based.
Yeah,
you're gonna end up with 190 proof adult beverage.
Yeah, it's quite. I mean, it's kind of no different than like in college you would get gin and juice and you would drink a quarter of the orange juice and you put the 5th or whatever of gin in it on Wednesday, and then Friday you would take it to the party or whatever. right?
Yeah.
Because it tasted better. And
Right.
it's basically like the same idea, but like a more complicated version of it where you can
Good
like,
for
layer
you
in
for sitting on
flavor
liquor for
profiles.
3 days. That seems something that's never occurred in my life. But I will have to say this, is that in college we used to make, and this of course tells you how old this is, because it was called Jim Jones Punch. And
Okay.
Jim Jones was the guy who gave everybody Kool-Aid and they died.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah.
a cult, and he had laced it with cyanide or arsenic or some damn thing.
Yeah.
And but it was just called, it was essentially a Kool-Aid. They would the base would be an actual Kool-Aid. They'd just make
Sure.
like several gallons of red Kool-Aid, cherry, strawberry, whatever, and then start adding vodka to it, and then whatever else you had sitting around, and then if it got too gross, you would add another flavor thing.
Yeah, I think that they would call that. I think the very first time I got like really drunk, like really, really drunk, I think I got drunk off of what they called jungle juice, which was a version of that.
Right, where it's just found liquor on.
Yeah, it was basically like the frat took all the liquor they had, put it into like a supposedly clean trash can, and then a bunch of Kool-Aid, and then people would just like put their cups in it.
Yeah,
Gross.
it's so gross. You're like, get a ladle at least, you weirdo.
Yeah, like just thinking back at it, I'm like, oh God, your 20-year-old body is so resilient to stuff.
Yeah, it really is. You're just like, and then you woke up. Oh, good for you that I wasn't killed. So, yeah. So I mean, but that's interesting to make those. And then you said that you put them in those things where you can use a spigot.
Yeah,
that's fancy.
Like, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the right before or like the day of, I would, because you can, if you need a really big piece of ice and you don't want to purchase it because purchasing ice feels crazy, you can put water in like a bundt pan. Freeze it, and then you can kind of like knock it out, because a bundt pan can kind of take a good bundt pan can take some abuse. And then you have a big circular, and you can do that for like punch bowls too, right? Those big circle rings. And then you put the punch in, and because then the idea behind that, right, is that the ice is so big that it takes longer to melt, so it doesn't water down the alcohol as quickly. Okay. So then I would put like something like that size into the cooler,
right,
and then just stay in there all weekend then. Yeah.
Right. Have you ever, I forget, you know how like they put Russian vodka into the freezer? Because it doesn't freeze?
I don't think any liquor freezes.
No.
Any regular like straight liquor like that.
Like straight alcohol, like not, because that would, because I know that there's punches that have booze that are the ice cubes.
Oh, so yeah, you could definitely do that, yeah.
Yeah, which it just feels like, are you planning on date rapes? What's happening here? Or is it you just let it?
I think some people will do that, which is kind of smart. Like if you're gonna do like a pool thing, you can, and I guess I should say like maybe like clear liquors and brown liquors. I don't know if they freeze. Not to my experience. Maybe if you're making an ice cube, you add like a water component to it to help it freeze. I don't really know, but I know
that's not the thing.
Who have done it with rosé before. And so they'll make like rosé ice cubes, and then they'll put that in the same rosé with your glass.
Okay.
So that your rosé stays colder when you're in like 110 degree temperature in a pool. But you're not drinking watered down rosé then.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I like the idea of the bundt pan. And then that it does seem like you would break your bundt pan though, but I suppose you could do it with like a cast iron thing too, right? Or would that be gross?
I can't quite remember. I don't think so. If your cast iron was clean, I don't see why it'd be gross.
Right. Yeah.
I forget. I feel like if you just kind of like knock it, it's good to have like an ice pick tool, which doesn't mean it has to be giant, but there's like these little ones that look like weird fork rakes. That you can use to like chop up giant blocks of ice. Yep. But that can kind of help you get it out. I've done it a few times, and I can't remember how. It's been so long now. It couldn't have been that hard because I'm like, oh, I'll just do that again if I need to.
Right.
In my head, I'm like, that's how you get giant ice.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Rangers, just so you know, we are talking with, of course, Mandee Johnson, and these are just different travel, getting together, big party kind of tips that's what you like to do, because you're a social animal, Mandee Johnson. You're you want to hang out with people, and it's Mandee, so it's Mandee Photo on Twitter and Instagram, and the book is called Super Serious, An Oral History of Los Angeles Independent Stand-Up Comedy. So you comedy nerds out there, you're going to want to get this, because it's not just independent stand-up comedy is a lot of road comics as well. So it's everybody. It's everybody looking for stage time, and Los Angeles is full of 10,000 people who claim to be stand-up comics. I read that somewhere. And some of them are famous. Some of them are not good. And then there's a pile of people in the middle who are just looking for stage time. So who are varying degrees of great to just fine to okay. And because the spectrum is there, obviously.
Yeah,
yeah. So the Super Serious book, available at bookshop.org if you want to support local, independent, and if you want it signed, where do you have to go?
BookSoup. BookSoup has
BookSoup.
signed copies.
Oh, which is an actual bookstore.
Yeah. Bookstore here in Los Angeles, because I'm doing an event there on August 20th for the book launch. So they have a bunch of signed copies for that. So
are they open? Can you sort of hover outside and weave back and forth and go, hey, I want?
I don't know. I think if you just pre-order through their website, they'll have the signed copies. And then the event is obviously virtual, and it's free and open to everybody. But the benefit is if you purchase through them, they're the only place currently that has signed copies. So
okay, yeah. So Mandee Johnson, you guys, what would be now? We're wrapping up. We're almost at an hour. We've been talking about getting people together.
Time flies, Jackie, when I'm talking with you.
Time flies when the Dork Forest is essentially the hour goes by almost immediately because you're talking about something you love. And so what would you, how would you, when we do get together again in groups, a bunch of strangers, or a bunch of people, not even strangers, but they're the people you love who are not in your pod, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? What's the first big?
Oh man, I can't wait to have people over and cook for them again. Really, I think that's probably something. There's a bunch of our friends who live in California, mm-hmm. but not in Los Angeles, who we've been dying to see. So it would be great. They all live up in like San Francisco-esque area or Sacramento-esque area. So it'd be great to like do a big road trip. I'm assuming that. I mean, there's probably a way to safely organize like a large, like camp hang, right. Where like everyone's camping, they all have their own campsites, and you cook your own stuff, but you could kind of like eat socially distanced apart,
Yeah.
It's I haven't done that. I haven't planned anything, but I'm sure that there's a way to do it safely. So. Yeah,
we've had 2 groups of 2 people over, mm-hmm. where we've sat in the backyard, and then I have a rare. We bought a rare thing called the Clorox wipes. We got those, and we put those in the middle of the table, and then just sort of paper plates and this type of thing. So we haven't invited more than 2 people, and you wear masks and you keep the mask handy, just in case.
Yeah.
And but it's nice to see people in real life,
Yeah.
I mean, Zoom is good, but.
It's not quite the same, no, but yeah, we've done that like twice with my best friend. She's got a big outdoor area, and then we'll just bring all of our own stuff. Like we'll just bring all of our own things, and then once with some friends in San Pedro, and we've done like one social distancing like walk and one like social distancing bike ride.
Yeah, there you go.
Which those are always hard because you're actually like doing a physical thing while wearing a mask, and so you're quite sweaty.
Yes.
But it's also fine. It is nice to see people in real life and like
it's just lovely
that connection.
Yeah, once a week we've been driving up to and then we get takeout and sit in my mother-in-law's backyard, and we just I just split them up, and we mask up, we sit down, we take down the masks, we're all a good 4 feet away from each other, eating and drinking, and then and eventually I think we'll include my mother-in-law in the pod, just because she's not doing anything, and she's 75 years old. We don't want to get her sick, and
for sure.
And I never want to get sick. That's one of my go-tos.
I don't either.
Yeah. Big fan of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that too. I'm a big fan of never getting it. I'm good with that. So
yeah,
Yeah.
when one of my brothers was like, "Don't you wish you had already gotten it?" I was like, "No."
But there's no proof that even if you do, that the antibodies stick around. In fact, there's proof of the other way of it
Yeah, that you'll get it again.
lasting forever. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
such a mutating virus. So
Yeah, and the long-term results of screwing with my lungs, I'm good. Or my blood, I'm good.
Or your heart, or
Yeah.
there's just, the longer this goes on, I mean, it's terrifying to think, like, the first responders who responded to 9/11, we didn't know what was going to happen to them when that happened,
Yep.
and so they've had to deal with that since that happened, and that's been a horrible
Yeah.
thing for so many of them.
Yeah.
We don't know what these people who have had the worst reactions to COVID will have to deal with for the rest of their lives, maybe.
Right. Even if they, especially, we're talking obviously about the people who lived, and then there's so many people are dead. And anyway, but we're gonna gather
Happier
again.
topic.
But we will gather again. It will pass.
Yes,
Things will
yes.
happen, and you will
truly
get to cook.
Yeah, but I also truly cannot wait to be back in a room filled with strangers, too closely packed, staring at a stage.
Yes. Yes, a little stand-up comedy, an online comedy is exactly what Carmen Morales calls it, which is methadone. It will do, but it is not. It is
not the same.
It is not. So we
It
will
is
gather again. Thank you so much for doing the Dork Forest, Mandee.
Thanks for having me.
And your book is beautiful and gorgeous, and people should get it.
Thank you so much.
Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?